You are listening to Party Nerds Weekly.
Guys, Party Nerds in the house, give it up! Woo-hoo!
Let's go!
Guys, this is a special week for multiple reasons. First of all, we have a show. We have a good Star Wars show. So let's get that out the way right now. This is not no Book of Fett, which we'll get into. This is a good show. But before we get into it, I'm going to introduce our guests. We have above me the evil one himself, the nasty one. Give it up for Jorge, the evil producer. What's up, Jorge?
Yay! Jorge.
Are you back from Colombia?
Yeah, I'm back. Riding the mule back, you know?
You took a mule all the way?
Yeah. Loving
You got a lovely
again.
tan, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, right. And can't wait to talk about a show I haven't watched yet, but I'm excited.
Oh my god! Again?
Oh,
Get your piracy on over there while we're
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it as we speak.
You have the new dad excuse, so you're fine. You know,
Yeah.
if you didn't have that, you would have no excuse.
Right.
And also to my, I guess here, I'm going to point this way. We have the man himself, and I'm not going to crack any light skin jokes because it's quite obvious who he is. Give it up for James, Grandmaster Facts.
Big
Wait,
warrior.
You look darker today. You
Look.
don't look as light as normal.
All right, look now, because you say there's not going to be any light skin jokes. That's very passive aggressive of you. So you already just made a light skin joke.
Bro, you look darker than I've ever seen you before. What is going on?
I gotta put light on my face. What I gotta do?
Okay. I thought you were eating more Popeye's chicken, you know, and listen to Kung Function. Then you just start getting darker. It just happens.
You know, this beige bias really has to stop.
We'll stop the discrimination. Above him, we actually have a naturally brown brother. Give it up for Ralphie. What's up, Ralphie?
You know, it's just your regular mocha skin brother, you know, from
Mocha
another
skin.
mother.
Well, that's true. So look, you're mocha. We got James's cappuccino. I guess I'm like a latte. And then we got white chocolate mocha right here. And that is our special guest. Give it up for Elena. Elena, sorry for bringing you into our madness, but thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Elena, you and Jillian went to, was it a Renaissance Fair over the weekend?
We did.
How was
She
it?
was a pirate and I was a bar wench.
Nice. So Elena's like, you know, I'm just being myself.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
That's awesome. All right. So, and I'm just going to say the reason we asked Elena to be on the show, because Elena, you are, and tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you've been hardcore. Like, when did you get into Star Wars? Because I know your knowledge of Star Wars is quite expansive.
So most people would assume that I grew up on it. I actually only watched Star Wars in high school. It's like halfway through high school. And I had, you know, there was hype again for the sequel movies because Force Awakens was coming out soon. And I was like, you know, these are such big movies and like pop culture. I've never watched them. Up until that point, I only had ever seen Lord of the Rings and I got into Marvel a little bit. I was definitely not a nerd growing up. Like I was, you know, I had immigrant parents, you know, they didn't watch that stuff. So I discovered all this stuff on my own. And just one day, I think it was like Memorial Day weekend or something. I was like, I'm just going to watch all the Star Wars movies. And I then texted a friend after. I was like, that was incredible. And it was just downhill from there, or maybe uphill. But I have a whole like shelf with all of the new canon books. I've watched all the shows, you name it, comics. So not everything, because there is a lot of media out there now to consume, but as much as I can. So definitely.
Are you also a part of the 501st? Is that what it's called? Am I saying it right? The 501st?
Yeah, the 501st Legion is a nonprofit group. We are all volunteers that go to events for charitable purposes. So we raise money for charities like Make-A-Wish. That's our biggest one. But we do all sorts of appearances and stuff. And a lot of times people think we're paid, like paid actors or something when we show up. And we're like, no, we've spent thousands of dollars on our own costumes and we're not being paid to be here.
So you're a stormtrooper.
I'm not. I'm actually a TIE pilot. That's my one helmeted character. I do have another one in the works, but I'm not going to reveal it.
Uh-oh.
Give us
Well,
a hint.
we look forward to seeing it. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about Ahsoka. Right now, it's doing really good. I think on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 88%, and on the tomato meter and 74 audience score. Obviously, Rotten Tomatoes take it all with a grain of salt, but the overall consensus is this is a good show. Like, James, so far, what are your thoughts on the show?
It's fucking phenomenal. It's absolutely hitting all it has to do at this point is stick the landing. So pretty much within these 8 episodes, the first 5 is pretty much, I'm looking at it as it maybe it's going into parts. So we've hit the end of the second act, and now we're kind of like reaching the point where these next 3 episodes, to where it finally does finish, is going to be basically a darker tone. It was more like a redemption arc and a reunion between Sabine and Ahsoka in the beginning. Of course, we know how that ended. Then it pretty much elaborated the plans of Baylor and basically what he's been up to and how they're trying to construct everything as far as to bring Thrawn back. The introduction of a live action Night Sister for the very first time. And then pretty much outside of that, the whole Rebels Clone Wars conclusion into this last episode that we all basically came to be, which I thought was the most euphoric Star Wars episode that we've seen since they started doing these Disney Plus shows, whether it's been Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett, even Mandalorian.
Ralphie, you put in the chat after the episode, what did you say? You were just like, that was awesome.
I literally was at like a nostalgia feel. Like, I was literally like, if you haven't taken the time now to watch it, like, please just take the time, because and I thought the show was amazing as well too. But I really believe that last episode just kind of like took it over the top. Like, if you're if you're into the whole fandom of Star Wars, and kind of to what James has kind of said, it's like everything just kind of just molded into that, and it's just exactly it. It's just, it needs to stick the landing now, because you just had so much nostalgia into one where you're just like, this is the greatest thing to ever hit TV.
Elena, when you saw it, did you like a little tear come down? You're like, what was your feeling?
A little. I was full on sobbing. I'm also very emotional when it comes to Star Wars, but yeah, I mean, watching, obviously I didn't grow up on Clone Wars, but I did watch it a few years ago now, and seeing it brought to life like that, and just it really solidified just how young Ahsoka was. Like, in the show, you don't really pick up on it, but here you see she's a literal child. And same thing with Anakin, like, he's young, and just seeing in those brief flashbacks just that fall that you start seeing in him to the dark side, and the contrast between the two of them, and what ultimately you see her resolve that survivor's guilt she had, or whatever it was, the guilt that she that it was her fault that Anakin fell to the dark side and stuff. Just seeing that all kind of conclude in that episode.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. I feel like if you have not taken the time to watch Clone Wars and to watch Rebels for exactly what they are, some of this stuff that you see in episode 5, episode 4 might seem a little bit like it might feel a little out of place for you, unless you actually know exactly the backstories and everything like that.
Exactly.
Like, if you knew exactly Anakin and Ahsoka's relationship from Clone Wars, and what
him calling her Snips.
Yeah,
that's how I started.
Right in the beginning.
I was holding it in too. I was like,
you're already touching it. Like, the Battle of Mandalore, like, the fact that got brought out on scene, like, we saw it in Clone Wars, but the thing is, like, the fact that the Battle of Mandalore was actually, like, shown on screen, and the biggest details that were brought out in that, like, basically you saw Mandalorian soldiers with Maul type spikes in their hats, because basically Maul had just became like pretty much owner of the shit. He just took over Mandalore, and everybody started to reveal themselves as his own soldiers, like almost in the same as Commander Rex and everybody else with Ahsoka, because you always saw the orange paint on there.
Right.
They wanted to look like Ahsoka, and you saw that in the battle. Like all the little details were just stuck out. It looked awesome.
Yeah,
So-
that like few seconds of live action Rex is like
that's all I needed.
Again, another one.
Boba Fett back in Return of the Jedi. It's
Mhm.
the same vibes, but here he's a little more fleshed out, obviously, but it's
Right.
just loved it.
And just hearing the voice, because remember when you watched Clone Wars, all the soldiers, they all sound exactly the same. Did it feel like that was a horrible impression, by the way.
You're all saying this whack.
Yo, James about to be like, I'm done, man. Screw this. Yo, did it in many ways validate like the Clone Wars in the anime? Because you never saw this live before, and the girl that played a young Ahsoka, she was pretty spot on.
Ariana Greenblatt. You talking about young Gamora, man? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
She was
in Barbie as well. She was also in Barbie.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, bro. You see,
that was the daughter.
The more you know.
But even in that aspect, like you're looking at it from the ascension that everybody had this inclination in their head from just the 9 movies that nothing could be touched inside or outside of these movies. You can't create anything canon except for what it is. And people have arguments about this all the time because Star Wars fans are fucking like severely obsessed. Like,
is that true, Elena?
Absolutely the truth. That like it goes in order. It's Star Wars fans, Spider-Man fans, then Marvel and DC. Like Spider-Man fans are their own fucking worst enemy, and then Star Wars fans, you can't say shit. You'll get into an argument.
I can attest to that.
Absolutely.
I you know what I would throw in there anime fans because the One Piece is a whole nother show. But yeah, Spider in the world of superheroes and stuff like that, I totally agree with you. Let me ask you guys a question, and this is something that we actually asked in a post. Like, do you feel that if you haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, you can still appreciate this season of Ahsoka?
Yeah, yes.
1,000%.
Yeah,
I have a friend actually who also a big Star Wars fan, but just never liked the animated stuff, so just never watched it. And we're all duking on him. We're like, oh my god, why won't you just watch it? You're depriving yourself. But they're like, Mom, I think they're doing a great job of explaining everything. World Between Worlds. They're doing a good job of still telling the story, even if you haven't seen the shows. But I mean, there's no denying that your experience will be enhanced by watching
that's a fact.
Those shows. And you don't have to watch every single episode. There's 1,000 like filler episodes that are just funny or whatever you want to call it.
But if you want a good time, watch them all.
Disney Plus has like the essential episodes in like different playlists on Disney Plus. So don't have to commit fully, but you should.
For the average like watcher, like I would probably say like you kind of get the gist of what's kind of happening, right? Majority of people have just probably like seen the movie and have a concept or an understanding about where they're at. So if you're kind of like new to the whole stuff, it's like it's not like so much that they're lost. And you got to give shout out to like Dave Filoni to like how he's kind of orchestrated it. Because you have to like with the stories where there's some of them like again I wasn't really into Rebels, so I didn't really get like the whole gist of it, but at the concept was like all right, okay, it's all good. I'll see you later. But like to understand like Sabine and Ezra, right? I think that's what his name is. To understand like all right. Again, I'm gonna see y'all later. To understand like there is like that emotional connection with them. So like you can understand with that, but or less with you have Sabine and Ahsoka. Like there's a lot of things that I felt like Dave did an absolute amazing job with directing that made a person that isn't so well versed to understand what's happening in here.
And it's true because he was the director for episode 5. He didn't do the first 4. So like this episode was merely his, even though he is the overall creative director of this entire series, and Ahsoka is his character. Episode 5 was all his alone. Like you could tell that shit was his. Like the fact that
the amount of deep cuts, not just to Rebels to Clone Wars, but even Legends. Like
Yeah.
there's some
Yes, they
like
did.
interesting little Easter egg. He's always been good about that though, and especially with Rebels. I mean, considering that half of the conceptualizations that happen in Rebels are all old Ralph McQuarrie like concept art that was never used for the original movies, and just
Mhm.
the fact that he was like, we're gonna use this, we're gonna bring it back, and you're gonna like it. So he's always been good about that.
Yeah, and to be simple and plain, if you watched all 9 movies, you wouldn't even know who Ahsoka was. If you never watched any of the series, you wouldn't have a clue who she is unless you basically watch the shows. You watch the animation, shit. I would even say to go even as far to say just do the Gennady Tartakovsky's Clone Wars that used to be on Adult Swim. You will get a more better perspective of Anakin than you would going into this series. Basically, there's been so many theories out there between these 5 episodes. Like basically, there was that whole theory of who Marak was.
That he was Star Killer.
That basically he was going to be Star Killer. It was Kanan the entire time. Literally,
he killed his hands right off. Like,
don't hurt me like that.
He got cut off, and more than likely, the way he was cut off, and you saw the green smoke, it was a Night Brother all along. Pretty much like kind of
that,
like,
or he was just like resurrected. Because remember,
they had the chance to do that. Because remember, the Night Sisters used to do that to Savage Opress.
Savage Opress, yep.
So
I do remember that. That was Clone Wars.
Dude,
I remember that.
Darnell. I remember that.
So wait, you know what? Look, Ralphie, I'm going to go back to something you said because it's important. The fact that Dave Filoni is such a fan. Like and James, we've talked about other projects like Marvel. Sometimes they'll put these big franchises in the hands of corporate people that aren't fans of the material, and you could see. So, matter of fact, there you go. Another good example of the creators of the One Piece series. You could tell that they love the series, and you can see that and how they did it. Just like with Dave Filoni, you watch this, you could tell. He knows, like Elena, you mentioned, he put in little details from stuff. Like, you got to be a fan to know that. And when you do that, if you make a live, like something like that so good, you're going to make people want to go back to Rebels. You're going to make them want to go back to Clone Wars. That's what good storytelling does. And so, I guess this does back up the fact that, maybe you've not seen these shows before, but maybe this show's going to make you. Hopefully it ends well. Hopefully we're not like shooting our load and all of a sudden the ending is like Game of Thrones. Lord, please, no.
Okay.
Oh no.
Knowing, I mean, it's like, they not spoiled it, but it's like, it's coming. The fact that, they've cast somebody to be Thrawn and stuff. So, it's going to get worse before it's going to get better. But it almost, reminds you of Empire, right? It ends on that like sinister note of like, oh boy, like what are they going to be facing?
So when you said Empire, I thought you meant the Black Show. I'm like, wait.
Bruh.
I missed it.
I'm deceased. All right.
Good night, Darnell.
Please continue.
Let's collect ourselves. He just brought up a Terrence J. Howard show.
No, Elena, you said Empire, and the first thought was the Black Show. Where I was just like, wait, how'd you know about Empire in my brain?
Now.
Oh no.
Oh guys, see you.
Talk about Star Wars.
Now, so inevitably, you have to look at this. The next 3 episodes that we're going to see, 6, 7, 8. Are we in the right direction to basically say to ourselves that adding a Rebels continuity to it, does that help the expanded universe going into the movies the next go round?
Well, I can tell you personally, I never finished Rebels. I finished all the Clone Wars. I got through the first 2 seasons of Rebels. Now watching Ahsoka, I know I'm missing stuff.
Oh my God, you watched the worst 2 seasons. That's why.
Listen.
It gets good.
Thank you, Lena. Yes.
It's making me want to go back.
Admit, like, I'll watch them, but the first 2 seasons, that's just not it. It's 3 and 4 where it actually goes down.
So
Like
can I
that's
ask a question? Like, as a person, like again in Darnell's shoes, asking for a friend, would it just be then fine for a person to then just honestly like skip season 1 and 2? Like, it doesn't necessarily matter that the first 2
I mean,
seasons of
unless you
I would
just want to
say
know
no.
character details
I would
about,
say no. There's definitely a few key episodes. That's why I was saying before, like if you've never seen them and maybe just don't have time and don't want to sit and watch every single episode, Disney Plus is really good about they have playlists. They call them like the essential episodes for both shows. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Definitely for Clone Wars. But I think they have it for Rebels too.
Rebels.
So or even if you go online, you can Google like which episodes do I need to watch, to understand what's going on. And it's usually like maybe half the episode. So, if you don't have time, just want to watch the key ones or even watch a synopsis on YouTube. There's people do plenty of those on there, that are like maybe an hour long. But yeah, like I said before, it really does just help the enhance the experience of watching it. And Jason's talking about how he wants to be a Jedi, and you're like, oh my God, Kanan, like his father was a Jedi, so it's cool to
it's an
see
interesting
him.
choice of names that they gave that boy that name, Jason, because of the
Jason.
books. Because of basically the term from the books that Jason Solo could basically turn into.
I was going to say, I
Sith
think they named
like
him
that.
after.
Yeah, he did name him
Han
after
and
Jason
Leia.
Solo from the books. So, I mean, but that's near nor there. You know what I'm saying? Because I honestly, if they ever took the turn to basically let that boy grow up and turn into a Sith Lord, I think it would piss everybody off because we kind of
I think
seen
he's
that
dead
story.
though.
Huh?
I think he died at the temple.
No, he did die. But I'm just saying, we've already seen that story before. Like, we don't need a repetition of that story.
Kill him again. Let's do it again.
Hadouken! See it. I do want to bring up, though, speaking of tie-ins, because we're talking about the shows and the movies, but what about the game? If you guys played Jedi Fallen
the one
Orders?
with Cameron Monaghan,
of course,
and you got to talk to them guys.
Of course.
So just like it's little things. It's just like the first episode of Ahsoka, doing the puzzles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the game, even her using the Force echoes. When she touches the map.
Yeah.
Right. And she can basically follow everything from start to finish. What happened in the past.
Yeah, like she could see the memory that's attached to the object. I thought that was really cool. A nice little tie-in to the video games. They say that temple that she's doing the puzzles in is a Night Sister temple.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really giving a Zepho temple in my mind. So that's what I like to think it is.
So let me ask you guys a question, because this is it's all about formulas. What makes a show work? What makes it doesn't work? What is Ahsoka doing right that Book of Boba, let's say, did not do right? Because everyone can agree that The Mandalorian was good. Everyone loves it. But Book of Boba, like, you have my man in underwear wrestling a black Wookiee. Like, have you ever done that before, Elena? Have you ever wrestled a black Wookiee?
Jesus Christ, man.
Wait,
I'm lost. All right.
The point is, like, what is it about Ahsoka that makes this work as opposed to Book of Boba? And by the way, I love Boba Fett. Look, I got a Boba Fett watch. I grew up loving Boba Fett hardcore, and to me, it's just like I was hoping for it to be good, and I didn't hate it, but I did not love it. So, what are you guys? What's your opinion?
I mean, Ahsoka for me is just a coming of age story. I mean, we've seen Ahsoka since she was a child, following as the apprentice for Anakin. Just being that Padawan and learning exactly what was needed. And the thing is, he taught her brutally well. Like he pretty much threw the book at her. Not only shot her down, like had stormtroopers. He basically made her own danger room, like the X-Men. And just had her work until she got knocked out. Opposition ways to where she might have got killed. There's pretty much the reason that she probably survived Order 66. And went into a sort of like, I guess, hiatus for a little while. She knew that she had to lay low. And the fact that she's been on like these shadow missions, she's somebody that doesn't even depict herself as a Jedi. That she's just basically walking aimlessly around the earth, just doing exactly what she needs to do for her friends. So like the people that she's taking care of now, and the fact that episode 5 came to the correlation to where yo, you've been way too fucking hard on yourself. You need to just like get it together. You've always been following the right path. And it took for Anakin to basically like show up in the weirdest of places where basically you might have saw it in Rebels and everything like that, to where he had to like tell her one more time, be like, look, I've been trying to just like, I gotta finish your training. You gotta get through this shit, and then you'll be right on. That's why he had to see the dark and the light side of him. She did. I'm sorry. So basically, that was the only way for her to pursue and go on. And then all of a sudden, once she got out of the world between worlds, she looked like Gandalf the Gray. She had all this.
Gandalf the White. Gandalf the White.
Sorry, the White. Yes.
But yes, appreciate it.
No, you get my reference.
Yes. Nice try, James.
No. I still appreciate the reference.
Yes.
But it's very much like him coming back. He becomes Gandalf
all
the White.
All of a sudden, the scenery from that scene on, it was brighter. Sun was out. We going to go. We're going to go surf the universe with some Purgle. We're going to get some space whales up out this joint.
Yeah,
to another galaxy.
Space surfing on some space whales.
Yeah. And the little hints that basically transcended us this far. In season 3 of Mandalorian, we saw the Purgle. They were right there in the episode. That happened. So these little inclinations that you see from the animated shows and even the comic books with the introduction of Black K, who you only saw in the comic books before Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. It just shows that it's free reign for anything to get adapted and put in this world and made mainstream, as far as like what the constant continuity is going to be.
Yeah. Just to go off of what you're saying, I mean, you're asking what the difference was, and it's, decades worth of, more than a decade's worth of content, that, some of us maybe grew up on or whatever. There's a deep emotional connection to it as well, watching the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka, or even with the clones. I mean, I never really had any emotional attachment to the clones before I watched Clone Wars, and once you do and you go back and you watch the prequels, you're like, wow, like this is so much deeper than anything that's portrayed in the movies. Not to say that the movies don't portray, I mean, there's war and stuff, but there's too much to explain just in a few movies. So a lot of people may say, fan service. This isn't fan service. This is the continuation of the story.
Exactly.
The story, it's fueling the continuation of the story. And it's just that much more effective. Like I said, even with seeing Ahsoka, like as a child, she's a literal child. It just doesn't hit you the same way in the animated show. And seeing it on the screen, it's like, wow. And it's those little, like, not shock factors, but you know what I mean.
It's a lot bigger than what it's supposed to be. You got to realize that Ahsoka basically came into her own as a Padawan in wartime conditions. Like basically what we saw from like Obi-Wan and Anakin when he first started, that was peacetime. Shit wasn't really popping off like that. Ahsoka was born into this, and she had to grow up really fucking fast. That's why you saw that like first mission in the beginning where she's like holding the soldier's hand and everything like that in episode 5. Like she's probably like 10, maybe 12, when that shit's going down. And she had to see death and basically adapt really fucking fast. All while you got your master in front of you cracking jokes and shit. Like, don't worry about that.
Like, shit. Bro, people are dying.
Yeah. Like, well, what if we do if this is the only way that we're going to fight? Like if all we're going to do is war, how should I teach my next Padawan? Which is basically like speaking to Sabine.
And that's where some speculation comes in about, like, because we don't really know why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine. And a lot of the speculation, I think, is, at least when I've talked about it with my friends, is that maybe she was starting to see patterns with training that she had from Anakin and maybe got scared. And it goes back to the fact that she's still feeling all this guilt, about him turning to the dark side, and her facing that, I think, is going to help, maybe they're going to come back together at some point and she'll be able to finish her training. I mean, we don't know. Sabine going down this dark path is also very stressful, but we know it's because, she lost her whole family. Ezra's really the only family she's got left, so she's pretty desperate. I don't know. It's very stress inducing.
And she's probably like born like a couple years out of the Battle of Mandalore, so she's just one of those rogue Mandalorians that was out there doing like side work and probably bounty work and everything by the time she like joined the rebels.
Oh, now let me ask you guys a question, because there's a couple comments popping up. Jake made a good one earlier talking about he didn't feel that Rosario Dawson's character was as good a fighter as the Ahsoka portrayed on Clone Wars, and I mean I can see that to a degree, because when you're animated you can do stuff animated people can do. But
I got an answer. Yeah,
her back hurts. Yeah, she's like, hold on, baby, hold on.
I got an answer for that, and it's actually what she's saying. That's absolutely correct, because like most of the older Jedi, they can't move like they used to. I mean, we all saw CGI Yoda, who was like 900 years old when he finally bust out his life sword.
About Alec Guinness.
Yeah, Alec Guinness just stayed there the whole fucking time. They got old, bro.
That's literally all he does.
Like at this point right now, like Ahsoka is probably like close to 50.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
She's not as actually limber as she used to be.
That's an acceptable response.
I'm 25 and I have a hard time with my back now. Can you imagine at 50?
You know what?
She's like 17 the last time you see her in Clone Wars. She's still young and brisk. Like, of course she's flipping around and doing all that.
Yeah.
You know what? Going back to what we were saying earlier, I think it's the Star Wars universe, like you said earlier, Elena, is very vast. There's stuff that's canon, there's stuff that's not canon, there's video games, there's books, there's movies, there's TV shows. So what isn't a big problem is trying to make, like, again, especially when the biggest problem with Star Wars has been timelines, because like right now you're in a certain timeline and then you got Rey coming up, so like, do you guys feel that's the biggest challenge of making everything cohesive?
Not really, because if that was the case, George Lucas would have started at episode 1. He started at 4.
George Lucas?
I didn't know it was 1 of 4 at the time.
George Lucas. I'm gonna mess you up.
I heard
he just called it Star Wars when he first dropped it.
Just a fucking time jump, basically. If I'm gonna start in the middle of the story, what makes you think like there's so much more I can go into, because this shit is vast. He didn't really start at episode 1, so everything we're just catching up on little things all in between.
I mean, to be fair, like they say that they have a team, they have like a story team to keep everything consistent, or the continuity, I guess, to make sure everything is meshing. I do have to say, I think I was reading a comic or a book that totally contradicted something else in the canon. So there's just a little too much, I think, in my opinion, and that they can't keep track of all of it. But I think when it comes to the relevant stuff, like the shows, that the more popular media, that the books and stuff, it's probably not as important.
Right.
But I don't know.
I mean, look, I like the fact that they're picking pieces of certain items
from legends,
I guess, folklore that are pretty much out there. Anything based in the games, in the books, in the comics, or even the animations and everything like that. They're pulling Thrawn in. Thrawn wasn't even supposed to be a thing. That was just going to be Timothy Zahn's baby. He had him in the novels, and it was never going to come to light. The fact that he is now being brought to light, maybe, hopefully in these next 3 episodes when he does get introduced, he is the heir to the Empire. There is no more Vader. The Emperor is no longer there. I mean, hopefully within this timeline, I'm not pretty sure. But the thing is, like, we've seen all that shit. So there has to be a new progression going forth.
Right.
So if it happens to be Thrawn, so be it. If all the stories you read about Thrawn are equally as bad as what he can be, absolutely go with it.
He's pretty, If you read any of the books, read those Thrawn books, because man, the shows don't touch on just how brutal.
Yeah, he's diabolical.
Is.
But he's smart too. He's like brilliant.
He's calculated.
Yeah.
It's very cool to see. I'm usually not really like, I don't care about the politics or the military aspect of Star Wars.
So you didn't like Andor?
Books, what's that?
So you didn't like Andor?
Oh no, I loved it. Okay, I'm saying like when it gets to the nitty gritty, like politics, I kind of am like whatever. Like, because a lot of the books, that's what it is. That's why I have such a hard time reading.
Yeah, because in those books, the Empire has to look as scary behind the scenes as they are basically in front of you. So the fact that they have splinter cells inside of political government, The fact that they basically have coexistence inside of the Jedi Order that they had eyes and ears everywhere.
Right.
And that's how Order 66 went down. It was pretty much like Palpatine just sitting there waiting to push the button.
Yep.
And then he finally just got his reign. He was like, all right, I got my apprentice. I'm gonna just hit this button real quick. I'm gonna take this motherfucker out with me. Y'all have a good time now. I'm gonna make some balance real quick.
Yep.
But the thing is, even from Clone Wars, if you look back to like even what the Mortis gods depicted, and no, that's a whole nother thing. Sorry about that. But they basically said too much of one thing could throw everything fucking off. So there always has to be balance. So basically, Order 66 started this, of course, upper echelon of a lot of things that are happening now.
Right.
Everything had to build its way back up.
Let me ask Ralphie, because you've been a little quiet. And this is just a general question because y'all know y'all shit, and we over here like yeah.
Listen, I'm just I'm getting education
that's
as they go. I'm
no,
like, damn.
James Elena, that's some good shit, and I'm over there like yeah. No, but let me ask y'all, because first of all, it was kind of touching to know Baylan Skoll, played by the late Ray Stevenson, whenever I see him on camera and knowing that he used to be a Jedi, you kind of get feels, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say bittersweet is probably the wrong way to say it, but it's kind of tragic. Like the fact that he's playing that role and ironic too.
That's gonna suck when this season's over, because he's been a real fucking good character.
Yo, it's gonna suck. But Ralphie, what do you think about the casting? Like, do you feel like, not having all the knowledge, like myself and stuff like that? Do you think they like who's the girl that played? What's her name? The blonde hair girl. She looks like a singer. What's her name?
Wasn't that The Apprentice?
Shin Hati, yeah, the little blonde hair girl. Like,
I mean, for the most part, I thought casting was great. Like, outside of just the character Ray played, like, I thought, rest his soul, he's a marvelous actor. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when you kind of see him on screen, it's just, like you said, that nostalgia feel. And, like, again, I love Rosario Dawson, and I thought she was, like you said, I thought you are Ahsoka. But just everybody all together, like, I think they've done an absolute amazing job with the casting, and they took their roles to create such of a compelling story that, like I said, for those that don't really know too much, to be really invested in.
Yeah.
Because you're watching something, and again, it's, if you haven't watched the animated series, these people look like they've took the time to do the homework and literally give the fans what they deserved.
Right.
And you can't really like I said, that last episode, I'm just gonna keep referring back to. If you did not, you have to really feel for it. You know what I'm saying? And especially like the one that played young Ahsoka and stuff like that really took the time and dedication to give you that feels like, man, I did not really understand what she really went through until watching it. And like I said, it's just brilliant acting across the way. So you have to give the credit where it's due.
The arcs that they chose to portray, because it's such a brief, the brief flashbacks, the fact that they chose the very first time,
first mission,
first mission.
Yep.
Then it was Ryloth, and then it's season 7 at the end. So just like the fact that like they picked those key moments is really interesting. So I wanted to also add, the fact that he used to be a Jedi, but also not only that, but that he probably walked away from the Order, very much like how Count Dooku
probably
did.
when Anakin went bad. He probably survived Order 66, and he probably was like, man, fuck this.
Yeah, because I don't think we really know when, why.
Yeah, like I guarantee you, like I'm not sure if they'll do a flashback sequence of Baylor.
Goodbye.
But he probably was like, all right, if everybody knew God's honest truth that they was like, he's the chosen one. He's gonna bring balance to the Force, and everybody knew that. I'm sure the Whispers would like the fucking Mortis guys knew about Anakin.
The Whispers. This is what I do to get you in the mood. Sorry, I'll stop. You say
no, but I'm pretty sure. Remember when he said, I lost my faith a long time ago.
Right.
So him saying that to, I forget her name, the Night Sister, him saying that to her, in the essence, he probably was like Jedi to the core. Like, this my shit. I do this every day, all day. And by the way, I do this because the chosen one is the one that I follow. He might have been young as hell. You got to figure. Ahsoka's about 50 right now. So if Anakin at that time, when before Order 66 happened, Baylor might have been like a young, spry Jedi and everything like that. He was probably gung-ho about this shit. Just got his force abilities, and he was ready to rock. He was like, I'm following that guy. And then all of a sudden he turns and starts killing younglings. Who knows if one of the younglings was probably like his cousin or brother or some shit like that.
Why'd you kill Leon? No,
like, fuck this shit. I don't like none of this shit no more. I've learned all this stuff that I needed to. I'm gonna just step away. But when I get the chance, if I gotta get immense power, I'm gonna do it.
And so I brought it up because you can see that, he portrays that so well that it wasn't that he was corrupted by the dark side. It's a path that he chose.
Yeah,
because his
he's not a Sith. He's still like
what he was seeing.
Yeah, still a Jedi.
Makes his character just that much more complex. And even with his fighting style, like just the sheer power that he has is incredible to watch.
You know what? I don't hate watching him on screen. He's the bad guy, but I don't hate him. Like, he's almost like a Thanos, where I kind of see his perspective. I kind of feel for him. Like,
first you do that with Dooku.
Right.
You get to see the perspective of the separatists.
And
you don't see that in the movies.
He's true to his word.
And he could have killed Sabine. He could have just killed her, but he didn't. He was just like, look, I'm a fair man. Like, you want to come with me? And he convinced this girl to come to his side. So look,
I mean, even though Shin was right behind her, about to choke the life out of her,
she was just like, motherfucker, I hate you. And he's like, stop.
I was gonna say she has such of a dark aura when she as well too. Like when she was just playing, it was just like, yeah, you could tell she's just about the action and stuff like that. But you also see from Baylor's perspective, like it's like I'm at the dark side, but I'm gonna let you rock out because we need to go. And you need to relax. But like he has like this essence of self-control, like how most bad Jedis, they're just like, I'm going to destroy you, and that's it. Like he had a very mellow, calm, and like I said, that's one thing that I think I appreciated about Rey and his dedication to the character to make that come to life. You know what I'm saying?
But he's still following the path. He has a Padawan. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he even took on an apprentice, even after this whole thing goes down, like they've always been the talk of like gray Jedi or dark Jedi and everything like that. Who knows? Shin Hati, the portrayal from that character alone. I mean, as far as just the accuracy alone of somebody who definitely does not wash her ass or basically cut her hair with her lightsabers, absolutely, she looks the part. She looked like somebody just
she looked like a pop singer from the 90s.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Just like look like a girl that's at a grunge concert and just hasn't washed in about 10 days. That's shit.
So wait, I got Elaine, I'm going to ask you this, and this is kind of controversial because I was talking to Samantha in the chat about what do you think about Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera? Now, because it's kind of controversial because obviously that's Ewan McGregor's wife in real life. Y'all might remember her from Scott Pilgrim. She's done a lot of other stuff.
She was Huntress in Birds of Prey, bro.
There you go. And I love her as Huntress. But do you think that do you think that she's doing a good job? Do you think they can honestly?
How many times?
Jorge, he loves hitting that button. Do you like her in that role, or do you think they could have cast it better? Because the girl who actually does the voice of Hera Syndulla, she actually could have played the part as well.
It's tough because at first when I started watching it, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, oh, why did they cast her? Blah, blah, blah. Like her eyes are too weird. Like why'd they use such green contacts? But as I'm watching each episode, I can feel Hera through her. Okay. I can feel it.
Nice.
In her certain interactions. It's just the first episode. I think it was just very jarring. I have to say Sabine for me right away. It clicked for me.
Oh,
I was like, this is Sabine.
100%.
Love her. Hera, it was a bit of an adjustment. I think it took me a couple episodes to be like, okay, this is Hera. you know, the argument that people are like, oh, well, you know, her eyes are like that in the show. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't have to look that horrifying. So that's my only complaint at this point is the contacts that they use. It doesn't have to
Bright
be
and like
it's very much like, hello, like please don't look at me.
Chill out, Hera. Don't kill me.
What do you want?
And you know what? So, and it's funny because the girl who plays Sabine Wren, her real name is, I just thought this was funny. Her name is Natasha Lou Bordizzo. So she has a Russian, Asian, Italian name. Like I've never seen so many ethnicities combined in one name before, you know. But yeah, no, just like Bradley said, I do think the cast they have good chemistry. Like I'm feeling the characters on this show. So now let me ask you guys a question because you guys are very schooled on Rebels and Clone Wars. The story going forward, what would you like to see from the animated, from any of those shows that they have yet to represent live action? Obviously, they brought who was the guy from Rebels, the big purple guy?
Zeb.
What's his name?
Zeb.
Yeah, they brought Zeb in. You know, was there any other characters or any other arcs or something you would like to see hinted at or presented in the series?
I mean, you could bring Zeb into this show if you could.
I mean, yeah, they already brought him in the live action. It would be cool to have them reunite again.
You can have Zeb and his husband.
No, people would lose their shit if you saw like if Ezra comes back and you see Zeb, people are like, oh, they would lose it.
No, but that's the biggest thing is, will they introduce Ezra? Even though we saw him as like a hologram or anything like that, if we do inevitably see Thrawn, who we've seen in the trailers, do we then see Ezra?
Well, they casted him. Like if you look
Yeah,
at
they
the
cast
casting,
him, but he was casted, and you could cast him as the hologram, and that'd be it.
True.
So it's like inevitably in these next 3 episodes, if they are the biggest thing is just to get Thrawn back. They got to start this shit from scratch and basically just get the Empire rolling again. But at the end of the day, supposedly the Jedi are wiped out. You know, there's not many of them left. So like somebody like Ahsoka, somebody like Ezra, somebody like Jason, who now is showing a lot of Force abilities. I hear lightsabers.
Well,
That type
and
of
Luke,
shit,
Luke is still alive out there somewhere. Luke is chilling.
I was going to say, don't forget that one of the reasons, so we didn't actually touch on it, but one of the reasons that Book of Boba Fett didn't hit is because it was basically Mandalorian like 2.5.
It was.
Which was very weird to me. And they, you know, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau explained that it's supposed to be a continuation of that like story arc, but it's very weird because you make it sound like the focus is going to be Boba Fett, which it was for a little bit. And I loved
3 episodes.
Yeah, and I loved seeing those episodes of Boba Fett, you know, contrary to everyone else. What's that?
Wrestling
Jesus
Wookiees.
Christ.
Okay, he's a cool character.
That scene was jarring to me. I'm like, why? It's like it was like oil wrestling.
That was a reference, though. That's a reference to a comic, though. So that's why. And also Cad Bane. Like they brought Cad Bane in. Like that was freaking sick.
Cad Bane was absolutely fantastic.
But they like completely went in the, you know, if they wanted to go for bounty hunter kind of Western vibes, which is kind of what they were setting up at first, like if they stuck with it just for the show, that would have been great. The content we did get with Mando was cool, but it just didn't fit in. It felt like 2 completely separate shows. So that's where I was a little like, overall, like
it was
you
almost
lump it all in. I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed all the episodes. Maybe not so much the colorful Vespa scene, or that was like very.
No, that was weird. That gang.
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of cool characters that they brought in. I personally liked how they portrayed Boba Fett. Again, old guy. He's not going to go around, you know, gunslinging like ever. And that's another thing, you know. Boba Fett, this whole obsession with Boba Fett over the last 30, 40 years, how many years it's been?
Really put up a fight in Return of the Jedi, bro. He got his ass kicked into a
8
Sarlacc
minutes of total screen time. 8 minutes.
Thank you. I'm glad
people created this obsession, which is fine, you know, like, but like, remember that they created this narrative, this expectation for who the character should be. And then they're like upset that it's not that. Like, come on.
Well, you know what? And George Lucas actually said that in an interview that he was surprised. He did not plan for Boba Fett to be that big of a character. And there's actually a weird story. about the outfit. I forget. There's more to his story,
I'm
but
sure,
when he
yeah.
blew, what's that?
I said I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what it is, but it has something to do with like he just kind of happened to. All right, well, you wear this, and it wasn't intended for him to stand out, but he did, and he ended up taking off. That's why he died like a bitch when Han Solo was like, "Boba Fett, where's Boba Fett?" Hit something like wacky like Looney Tunes type of thing right into the Sarlacc. But ultimately, I still love Boba Fett as a kid when I had the Star Wars toys because he was cool. Like they made him cool. Like he would just be in the background, just be nodding his head to Jabba's music, But when the show came on, that mystery that Boba had back in the 70s and 80s, they gave that to Mando. They gave that to Mandalorian. Yeah. So now he's the cool one that only speaks when he needs to speak, which is fine because it's like
which might be why people didn't like Boba Fett so much is because you brought in Mando, who is the new
the same character.
The same character, exactly.
The new kid in town, and then you got old man Boba who just wants to chill. He wants to ride his bantha.
He had a good looking outfit. Okay, it was all chrome. He was chilled, and he had that little Grogu thing. He had Grogu with him. And that's what took it off.
He was a responsible father to Grogu. And the women love that. The fact that, like, oh, not only is he strong and cool, but he takes care of his children. Oh, my goodness. I love Mando.
Zaddy.
Oh, wow. Boba Fett was supposed to be the original villain of Return of the Jedi. I did not know that. Did y'all know that?
I heard that basically the premise for Return of the Jedi was supposed to be pretty much around the bounty hunter initiative taking over Han Solo's ship and everything like that.
Didn't they introduce him in the holiday special prior to the movie coming out?
They introduced him in Empire. He was in the Cloud City.
I meant like not introduce his character, but they were supposed to like flesh him out more.
They were. He was supposed to be a bigger character than what he was. I agree with that. Yes. If you're following the toys, yes, he absolutely probably sold out back in the Kenner days because he was the coolest looking one.
Still love Boba Fett to this day. I'm a Boba head.
It's a cool ass outfit. Yes.
Look, all the Boba ice are coming in.
Oh my God.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just also like setting it to remind you that he only did have 8 seconds of screen time, and for people
Fair enough.
You could say that for, about all Star Wars fans where they all set these like super high expectations for the movies and whatever. And then they get disappointed that it doesn't meet their super high expectations for what is at the end of the day geared towards children. So let's relax and enjoy
Star Wars fans
what we get.
So just to let you guys know, in the late 80s, early 90s, I would read the Star Wars books. I loved the bounty hunters as a kid. So like I would read those books, obviously not canon, where they would have like a Jeddo cast and they would have Dengar and stuff like that. So I like the whole like bounty hunter thing was so fascinating to me. And they even like all the characters in the cantina. I read the book on all those little creatures, like the little Ranat and all the aliens. But I was a Star Wars head more back in the day. But I know it. Going back to like the topic though. So we were talking about like right now the story seems to be evolving, bringing in Thrawn and stuff like that. Do you like and we were talking about this before, people can get fatigued. Like I personally am getting kind of like Marvel DC fatigue, mainly DC just because of the Flash and stuff like that. Should Star Wars be careful not to push too much out? Like right now we got Ahsoka. This is great. Like maybe next year we don't, and obviously with the strike we might not get it, but maybe we should just back off for a second because you got to make us want more. Like I can't look forward to going to Disneyland if I live in Orlando. You know what I mean? Like
if I had to give like kind of like an outsider answer looking in, I think the difference between like what the Star Wars realm versus like the Marvel realm is like Marvel is still very like in your face type of shows and movie. Like your expectation is, oh, something big is going to happen. Something big is going to happen. Something big is going to happen. I need to be able to see it. But as well as too, it's like you're consistently kind of, I'm not saying let down, but it's just like, it's always like you're missing something or like, yeah, you're fatigued. With Star Wars, I don't necessarily get the fatigue, like, because as they were saying, it's like there's so many aspects that you can go about it. And you have such of a large timeline that no matter what you're kind of like interjecting, it's going to be something interesting.
Yeah.
Marvel, like I said, Marvel and all that is just all continuation. You're like, I need to see something big. Something big's got to happen.
Yeah.
I think the
I agree with
demographic
that.
is, as far as like the outline for Star Wars, is a little bit different because there's only 9 movies. So a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing so far, basically outside of just the cinematic universe, has just been TV, animation, comic books, and video games. There's only been 9 movies. So what Filoni's basically trying to do at this point is try to work his way up. Who do I introduce if I'm going to start the cinematic universe again for Star Wars? If I'm going to start maybe another trilogy or anything like that. I got Mando, I got Grogu, I got Jason, I got Ezra, possibly. I got a dastardly ass villain in Thrawn. Now I can just build off of that shit. And then
So do you think if you go back to the big screen?
I think it could go back to the big screen if they basically if you figure all those names I just named, if they're all in a movie for 2 hours, you know, that could be something. But the thing is, there's still things that I'm kind of confused about. I'm confused about the fact that like the Night Sisters are even involved and want to basically get back their link with the Empire. They were fucking off by General Grievous in the Clone Wars. So the fact that they even want to get down like this is just crazy to me.
I mean, we definitely know that at least one had survived because of Marin in the Jedi games.
Yeah.
I saw something interesting. Not that I doubt that what's her face. I'm so bad with the names in this show. But the Night Sister, that she might not actually be like a true
Morgan
Night
Elsbeth. Got it.
Yes. That she just may be like a follower or she learned some of the magics with the K.
But she said she was a survivor though. That's why I figured that she was one of them.
Maybe. I don't know. You can never trust them. Who knows? Maybe she just said that 'cause she wants to be a Night Sister. Who knows? I mean, possibilities are endless. I mean, we thought that Marek or whatever was Star Killer, so but that got quelled very quickly. I mean, she definitely can use magic. You see the green, you see that when she's interacting with the map, like very much has the abilities. So I don't know.
Personally, I'm loving the show so far, and I'm very happy that we have some quality Star Wars content. But who's Dash Rendar? Again, I don't know. You guys know who he is?
I remember him from like the toys. Wasn't he like a smuggler and shit?
Like
he's like a Han Solo character, if I remember.
Yeah, but he was like he was in the Imperial Navy, and he just like basically converted to be with the rebels.
Okay. Again, there's so many stories with Star Wars.
It's like a character that hasn't been built up.
Something not canon, I think.
Well, that's the thing.
Sorry, like, I'm very religious with the canon. I'm a newer Star Wars fan. Can tell.
So when I know Devin Wade would agree with her. Remember, so I don't know. We had a podcast with Devin on there. Devin will fight this fight all day. Devin says episode 1, 2, and 3 with Hayden. He said they beat the original ones, and I'd argue that because I'm old school. But
that I don't agree with.
You're part of that thinking as well.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't agree with. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's really generational. Like people who are my age or like within that like 20-year, 10-year like age range, I think very much are more prequel fans. If you're a little bit older, you're a little bit more original trilogy fans, and then obviously younger kids are going to probably like the sequels more. So I think that's just really what it boils down to at the end of the day.
I will agree with Dev.
I agree.
Yeah, I will agree with Dev on this. Hayden is the GOAT.
Facts.
Hated.
Hayden's the GOAT.
The amount of thirst on Twitter the next day, I was living for it. And then I was sitting there like retweeting and like reposting stuff, and I had lost some followers. And I was like, you know what? Good riddance. I'm gonna keep bombing my feed with Hayden Christensen because he's zaddy. You look good.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, to be honest, Hayden Christensen's acting roles outside of Star Wars never amounted to shit.
Like, how flawless, like.
So yeah, like literally, like with you put a lightsaber in Hayden Christensen's hand, everything changes.
Yo, it's so funny how you love Hayden. Like some people just didn't like him as Darth Vader. Devin's just like you. Devin is hating all day. I have mixed opinions on him because, like, I like the actor himself. We met him at Yeah,
Hating on
she's
Hayden.
fangirling right now, but wait, actually, when they just had him on there, when I first saw him with Ahsoka, I thought it was computer generated, but that was actually him, right? That was
It was
actually
him, but they probably used
They
de-aging on him.
de-aged him a little bit.
he aged him.
Well,
Okay,
people were
because I was like,
complaining
Yeah.
they didn't de-age him in Obi-Wan because he was still like, I think he was still his Padawan in the flashbacks, and they didn't de-age him, and people were like, "Ooh, why didn't they de-age him?" And then they're complaining when they did de-age him. You can't win. This is
It-
You
Star
can't
Wars
have
fans.
it.
Star Wars
Star
fans.
Wars
I
fans.
think Star
Wars
Wars
fans.
fans.
You
Star
were
Wars
shepherd.
never happy.
No, never satisfied.
Well,
And
look,
that's the, you know what? That's the vibes of this show. I feel like too. There are some decisions that they're making with the show where they're like, you know what? If you don't like it, too bad. You're still gonna watch it anyway.
Pretty much.
so before we go, last question, like the timeline, how's this all going to transition into the movies with Rey and Kylo? Like, what was the name of the order in that movie? Like, do we see it heading in
First
that
Order?
direction?
The first order.
Is that what it is? The
Yeah,
first order?
First Order.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I don't want to say something wrong, and Star Wars fans will literally murder me. They'll take one of their little R2D2 droids and shock me. So, are we getting toward that storyline? Because keep in mind, we're right now in between. We're in a period where a story wasn't told. So,
Yes.
they got to get older. When Luke's older, we see him train Rey. Are we getting to that time? How many years away are we from that?
I'm not sure where the timeline lies at this point.
It's
So
still much closer to the end of Battle of Yavin than to the sequels. And then the only content that we have right before the sequels is another show called Resistance,
Yeah.
which is another animated show. That one is even less watched by people because that one was actually made for children. However, there are and there was an Easter egg, I think, in episode 1 of Ahsoka. They had all the senators, and one of the senators was the main
it was the homeboy's dad.
Kazuda.
Yeah, the Asian
Something.
guy. That was what's his name from Resistance's father.
Yep.
And he was always opposed to him being a Jedi.
Huh. That's a cool
Yeah.
Easter egg.
Yeah.
There's
So,
so
and
many
Resistance-
shows.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say Resistance takes place right before Force Awakens, and I think going into Force Awakens because you see them use Starkiller
Mm.
in the animated show because I think they presumed that his parents got killed actually when
Wow.
Starkiller was
Ooh.
deployed. So, but between here and then, I don't think they're really, not that I know of at least, there is no content. So I think that we're coming up to that point now that they're going to fill in those gaps. So it's going to be very interesting.
It will. Now, what is Visions? I always see Visions Star Wars. What is that about? Is that
That's
anime?
that's literally fan-made anime versions
so
of
that's
Star
not
Wars.
Okay.
Short
all right.
stories.
It's almost like Star Wars inspired, like
Like an
one-off
anthology.
little stories, and like it's a showcasing of different animation styles. It's really,
Like,
it's
what
really
if?
cool.
It's cool as shit. It's cool as hell. Like if it's basically an anime anthology.
10 years after.
Cam said First Order is found about 10 years after Ahsoka is set. Cool.
Okay.
You know what?
Oh,
Like, there's more content to be created then. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the wonderful thing. So, all right, guys, look, this was a great show. We went over an hour, but Elena, thank you so much for joining us. I know I hit you up last minute, but guys, give it up for Elena.
No, listen, I'm always happy to talk about Star Wars.
We will. No, what? How about this? Are you cool with coming back after the season ends? Because we need to talk about this
Yeah,
again.
sure. I would love to. Listen, I can talk about Star Wars for hours, and I'm not kidding about that.
We're like, all right,
I would
Elena,
be
it's
happy
time
to
for
come
bed. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Ralphie, brother. Appreciate you always being a part. James, you're the man. Appreciate you. No jokes. I didn't say it.
Do it.
No jokes. No, but I do appreciate you. Just know that. And then we got Jorge, Mr. Dad, Evil Dad. But guys, so Party Nerds, we are out. We'll see everyone next week. Peace.
GG.